Hey guys, welcome back to science. Today we are beginning on page 44 in your science hardcover books. Let's go over our vocabulary before we begin. Our first vocabulary word is balance, the state in which all influences cancel one another out, resulting in no overall change. So, like on a scale where you have two cups that you can put two different weights in, one is going to weigh the other one down, but if you put something that weighs the same amount, it's going to stay balanced, and neither one is going to pitch up or down, right? So it's balance. Then we have energy flow, the movement of energy within an ecosystem. So the energy that comes from the sun is never lost, it's just moving from the different organisms when they eat them, okay? Then we have nutrient, a substance that all living things need in order to survive. And then natural cycle. It's a process in which nutrients and other resources are repeatedly transferred throughout an ecosystem. Okay, let's begin. Communities of organisms and the non-living things on which they depend, like sunlight, water, and air, make up an ecosystem. So those are the abiotic things in the ecosystem, right? So not living, sunlight, water, and air. Ecosystems undergo many changes. One change is usually followed by another change that offsets the first change. This is how an ecosystem maintains balance. For an ecosystem to be balanced and continue to function, it must have energy. Energy flow is a process in which energy from the sun and nutrients are transferred to living things and circulated among them. This designed system of living organisms helps the ecosystem stay in balance. So if we look at that picture, it might look like something you might see out your window right now. But we see there are different numbers within that ecosystem. So number one is the sun. So it says the sun is the main source of energy. So the sun goes to the number 2, which are the plants. 3 is the animals that eat those plants. 4 are the animals that eat those animals. And so on and so forth. So the energy is transferred from organism to organism by who eats what. Okay? Let's continue. Besides energy, the other things are needed for an ecosystem continue to function are nutrients, which are substances that all living things need in order to survive. Certain nutrients and other resources are used and transferred in natural cycles. For example, in the water cycle, which we've heard of, waters in lakes, streams, and oceans evaporates, goes back up into the air, becomes clouds, so gathers, becomes clouds, and then comes down through condensation, or precipitation, and the cycle begins again. Without a cycle, the water supply would be exhausted and the ecosystem would cease to function. So it's a cycle and it's kind of being recycled, right? So it's happening over and over and over again. So the water that you drank today may have once been drank by a dinosaur. It's a pretty crazy thing to think about. So it's the same water that was on the earth when Noah was in the flood. It's pretty crazy. It's the same water. It's just being recycled over and over again. Okay, let's continue. All things need carbon, all living things. Plants acquire carbon dioxide from the air and use it to make all the parts they need to live. When a consumer eats the plant, a nutrient that contains carbon are transferred to the consumer. So when we eat plants or eat a salad, we get the carbon from that plant and we release some of the carbon into the air as carbon dioxide. So we breathe out carbon dioxide. Decomposers also produce carbon dioxide when they digest a consumer's waste or dead body. So we talked about that a little bit in the last lesson with mushrooms. Mushrooms are decomposers and they break down those things and then they give off carbon dioxide. So without a cycle, the carbon supply would be exhausted and the ecosystem would cease to function. okay? Let's look at that picture with the fungus or the mushrooms. Decomposers like these fungi, which is multiple mushrooms, are important parts of natural cycles. Though we may consider bacteria and fungi dirty, no ecosystem could survive without them. Let's look at outlook. Where has your water been? If you use water to drink and bathe, you use water to drink and bathe. If water is constantly being recycled through an ecosystem, how many organisms might the water have been inside before you? Crazy, right? Fortunately, water treatment plants ensure that the water we use daily is pure enough to drink. So like we talked about, those dinosaurs once may have drank the water that you drank today. Pretty crazy. That's it for today.